Imagine a world with no religion. Yeah, no thanks. Okay, well, I changed my mind. Maybe I will. So, I've been seeing a lot of posts on Facebook, and I've been seeing this for a while, where people have posted these memes that say things like, imagine a world with no religion, and they have something like this grand city, and then all this technology and all that. And basically, they're implying that religion somehow is detrimental to society. Well, uh, there's a lot of ironic things about this line of thinking. So in this video, I want to talk about some of the ironic things and some of the issues with making these kind of arguments and these kind of assertions. And then I want to talk about the virtues of religion. And then later in the video I'll define what I mean by religion. There won't be some broad blanket term. So hopefully this video will help clarify a lot of things, because I know that a lot of you out there probably see these kind of posts. I guarantee you after watching this video, you'll know exactly what to say to these people. The first thing that is ironic is that a lot of the people that push this line of thinking, that the world would be better if there were no religion, are empirically minded. They really like science, and they really push science as a way to find truth. Well, anyone who's followed me over the past few years knows that science is not a truth-finding method. But let's leave that issue to the side, and let's think about the implications of what they're saying versus how they think that they know things to be true. First, science is a method, has a method, and it involves testing and experimentation. If they're going to assert that without religion, the world would be better off, they have to have a way to test that hypothesis. But they don't have a way to test that. Why? Because there's people in this world that are religious. So there's no way to test and see whether or not the world would actually need to be better if there were no religion. So they're already, from the very get-go, the way they say that they know things and what they're arguing, they don't mesh well together. They crash right into each other, because making the assertion that the world would be better without religion actually contradicts their way of finding truth. And if that's the case, then from their epistemology, their way of how they believe that they come to know things, they are already not able to reach that conclusion in the first place. Ouch. Another irony in this line of thinking is some atheists will approach the idea of no religion from an ethical standpoint. Now, the problem is that without religion, you really can't account for ethics. So, why is that? Well, if you're an atheist, and if you ascribe to universal common descent, that's the idea that all life forms originated from a single replicating molecule or some sort of single common ancestor and evolved over time through evolution. So let's say, you have a single replicating molecule, and then you end up with humanity at some point. Now, that's absurd for a variety of reasons, but this video isn't about evolution. So we'll go ahead and grant that for the sake of argument. And the simplest I can put this is, if we did come about some sort of naturalistic evolutionary process from a single replicating molecule, at some point there was a thought or a belief along the way. Alright, so someone had a belief or a thought. Now, where did that come from? Well, if evolution is true, the best we know is that thoughts are a product of chemical reactions in our brain. If we acknowledge that, then we have an issue, because logic is a science of necessary inference. And in logic, since logic is propositional only, there is no correlation between a non-proposition and a proposition. There's no way to infer a non-proposition from a proposition, or a proposition from a non-proposition. So if that's the case, then the first thought that humanity ever had was the result of a fallacy, because it wasn't a necessary inference. That's what a fallacy is, whenever a conclusion doesn't necessarily follow. So already they're starting with the fallacy. Well, if the very first thought came about by a fallacy, then all the moral propositions that an atheist believes, according to their own worldview, is a product of a fallacious inference, somewhere down the line, from them or a common ancestor, however you want to look at it. So logically, there's no way for an atheist to get to a moral proposition, much less any proposition at all validly. So as an atheist, you have a choice to make between two options. Number one, you can have logic, but not ethics, or you can have neither logic nor ethics. Either way, in this discussion, it's a no-go. This position ethically cannot be maintained because in atheism, the science of necessary inference does not allow them to be able to have beliefs. Now, they may have beliefs, and they may have them fallaciously, but you can't say that your position is more logical than ours if already your worldview entails that everything you already think is based on a fallacy. And now that we talked about atheism and some of the implications about the issue being discussed, imagining a world without religion, a lot of times whenever I bring these things up, people ask me, well, what do you mean by religion? Because religion is a broad term, and they're right. Throughout the history, religion has been used in a variety of ways as far as its meaning is concerned. So in this video, whenever I talk about it, I'll be defining religion as Christianity. And the reason why I define it as Christianity is because I'm not defending Hinduism, I'm not defending Islam, I'm not defending paganism, I'm not defending New Ageism, I'm not defending any of that. I'm only concerned with Christianity because I already disagree with all the other religions out there. So someone will ask me something like, well, why don't you just prove your religion is true then? Well, in this particular issue, when you're saying imagine a world with no religion, you're introducing a counterfactual. You're introducing a possible scenario. All right, and we've already shown that scenario by the epistemology, implication of the epistemology that many of these people that push this scenario ascribe to, that it's not really a tenable position because they can't really, there's not really a way for them to test that. There's not really a way for them to make the conclusion that they're making. We've already discussed that. Now, regarding Christianity, since they are so inclined to ask us to imagine a world without religion, why don't they imagine a world where everyone did what God had said from the very beginning? If everyone did what God said, then there would be no sin. I could give arguments and evidences for my beliefs, and I have in the past, and I'll be giving some of those in upcoming videos. But in this particular scenario, they're asking us to imagine something. So if we're going to go ahead and just imagine what a world would be like without religion, let's imagine what it would be like if everyone did what God said to do in the first place. So if we're talking about the implications of beliefs, in order to know what an implication of a belief is first, you have to be able to entertain that belief first. And you can say, well, what's your evidence of that belief? Well, then what's your evidence that I need to give you evidence for anything? You see, it's a infinite regress, because if they're going to start asking for evidence for everything whenever we're just imagining possible scenarios, then we can ask them, well, what evidence do you have that you have to ask us for evidence in order for you to believe what we say? And then when they give an answer, we ask them for evidence again, and then we ask them for evidence again until they get the idea that if you ask for evidence for everything, then you can't know anything because you have an infinite regress of burdens of proofs to meet. So in these situations, a lot of people don't understand this, but whenever you're entertaining counterfactuals, basically being ideas that are being brought up for consideration, or beliefs that are being brought for consideration, you don't have to provide evidence in order to be able to speculate on that, because the very argument given by the atheist is about the implication of a world without religion. So if they can do that, then why can't we just imagine a world where everyone did what God said to do in the first place? Because according to Christianity, if that happened, there wouldn't be any sin or evil in the world. So we are perfectly within reasonable grounds to be able to request that of the unbeliever. And then if they don't want to do that, then we don't have to entertain their ideas either, because if there's no ground for discussion if someone's not even going to listen to what the other person says. There's a difference between a discussion, which is two people or more people, or a mono discussion, which would just be one person talking to themselves. So there's a D prefix in that word for a reason. So in any event, it's pretty simple, really. I mean, some of the things I said is a little complicated, but I'm sure everybody will be able to follow. And, you know, it's just really, you know, whenever you look at discussions, it's really important to understand how discussions work, and it's really important to understand how philosophizing and entertaining ideas works. And that's maybe one of the biggest shortcomings in this particular discussion, that a lot of people just don't try and consider what the other person has to say. Now, we as believers know that the Bible's true, you know, but we have to let people tell their ideas to us. And the reason why is because we need to know where they're coming from so we know how to best address what they're saying. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's a blessing to you. I hope you all have a great week, and God bless.